Yo! Welcome to the show, BroMob. We're your hosts, Chad and Brian. Today is Wednesday, October 2nd. And as always, we've got our Week 5 starts and sits for you here on Wednesday. We've got our sleepers, our busts, and our streaming options. BroMob, welcome into the show. We hope we can do much better this week than we did last week for you. Terribly sorry there, but we promise to do better for you. Brian, are you ready to give some great advice?
Born ready, sir. And let me tell you something.
Like Lady Gaga.
It can't. Yeah. Let me tell you something about it. Yeah.
Not what I was talking about.
Not the way the song goes,
ready.
But I made it up. Anyway, yeah. Let me tell you something. I got a lot of juicy picks today. I mean, there's not a lot of really good matchups this week. It just didn't. It doesn't look good out there in the landscape. But I'm shooting for the stars. I'm either crushing it or I'm crashing hard. I can't wait. Let's do it.
See, the problem is, Brian, you're shooting for the stars, but I live on them because I am a star.
Well, guess what? You might live on the star, but I made the star and I actually own it. Pay me rent.
How did you make it? Tell me how you made that star.
$7,000.
Is that how much you made it for?
Per
or you're
minute.
charging for rent?
That's what I'm charging for rent.
The world's cheapest
Join
star.
my star.
7,000. Just flat. Straight up front. I'm not asking for it monthly. Just a straight fee. All right, BroMob, well, we got a lot to go over this week. We're going to get right into it here. Be sure to follow along after the show by following us on Twitter and Instagram at FFBrosPodcast, and be sure to search that ever so valuable hashtag BroMob for all sorts of hints, advice, tips, and great things out there on the Twitter sphere, on the Facebook sphere, and just pretty much any sphere that's out there. Maybe one of Brian's $7,000 star spheres. Who knows? Let's get into the show.
Here's the news.
John Ross is not looking good, fellas. Off with an injury here, much like Brian's voice is very injured, trying to sing that weird high-pitched song there. But John Ross expected to miss multiple games with a shoulder injury. This is not what we like to hear, Brian. Unless if you're an AJ Green fan or owner, it is what you like to hear.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'll tell you right now, that's good news for Tyler Boyd. So
Absolutely.
if you're a Tyler Boyd owner, you're rejoicing this morning. It's tough though. John Ross is did you know he is the fastest man in the league?
Yeah.
Fastest human being in the league.
Yeah. Fastest 40 time ever.
Heard that from Snoop Dogg today. Right.
We got our deep sources, BroMob.
Yeah.
One of them being Snoop Dogg.
Oh yeah, I was talking to Snoop and he's like, "What up, BWD? How's it going? Kicking it up in the ROSS Ross G. Did you know he ran a 4.22?" And I was like, "Holy smack! Who am I talking to right now?" And then I think he realized he called the wrong person.
I don't think any of that happened.
It didn't,
no way.
But it was a great story anyway.
You
John Ross he's a fast man. He's a fast man. So there's a big loss to a team that is already struggling tremendously.
Yeah, this is going to be a big hurt, a big painful blow for all BroMobsters out there that had him. I hope that you guys have capitalized on the fact that he's been doing so well and you've traded him, hopefully. But if you haven't, sorry to hear this. Tyler Boyd instantly becomes the high target share monster that we were expecting him to be without John Ross or without AJ Green. So this is big. Also big, Devante Adams. Though we kind of expected this. Unlikely to play against Dallas this coming week, so that just opens the doors up for MVS and even Geronimo Allison, Brian, to kind of step in and do some damage against Dallas.
It's my guy, man.
Geronimo. So many people you got to try and prove that they're wrong.
Well, I don't have to prove anything because I'm the best, but you're right. I do need to prove that part. So, But yeah, MVS should have a good game. I actually think Geronimo will have a better game. And so I think Dallas is going to smother MVS up. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be running for his life. They're going to really test that offensive line. Dallas is not going to take that loss against New Orleans lightly. So I see Dallas coming out of the game pretty hot. I've got Aaron Jones in a few leagues. I'm going to consider putting him down for the day. I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens. I suppose. I think the Devante Adams injury. What do you think? I've heard rumors 2 weeks. I've heard week to week. I've heard out maybe 4 weeks. Chad. I mean, what do you do if you're a Devante Adams owner right now? What do you do? I mean, we're going into week 5. Let's say he misses another 3 weeks and you don't get him back till week 9. Do you dare trade him?
Well, hopefully, as the Adams owner, you've gone out to waivers and hopefully added MVS to at least grab some of that target share that you're going to be missing out on. Trading would be a possibility to me, especially if you're in the hunt, right? You don't want to go losing these games. It's going to hurt not having them for any playoff stretch. But if you're not making the playoffs, why does it matter? Playoffs. Talk about playoffs.
You just Danny Green does right there, dude.
Yeah, Danny Green is what they're going to be saying to themselves. Oh my God, a Danny Green.
Oh, that
myself.
wasn't Danny. Wait a minute, that wasn't Danny Green. That was who's the coach that said that? Playoffs. That was the Colts coach from back in the day with the giant eyebrows. You know what I'm talking about? God, what's his name?
I
can't think about it. Dang it. Yeah, I'm gonna
we'll
look
continue
it up.
as you look it up. Sorry, BroMob. This is a tidbit of information that we don't have. This is my fault, the producer, for not having all facets of information ready for us to use at any given point.
Jim Mora. How did I not think
Jim
of that?
Mora.
Yeah,
of course.
Giant eyebrows. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like this.
Giant
Playoffs, and his eyebrows are like
Moras.
moving around.
Yeah. His eyebrows spell playoffs. they flash at everybody.
Playoffs? Can't talk about playoffs. And then Danny Green's in the background like, we let him off the hook. I'd like to get Danny Green and Jim Moore in the same room. That'd be fun.
Oh, that would be almost impossible.
Also be terrible.
It would be terrible. So would be not making the playoffs. So if you have Devante Adams, do what you can. Try and trade him for whatever you can. Get a starting lineup going. And try to win games. Sorry to hear about the bad news.
Yeah, but look, let's be clear, though. Devante Adams still has high-end wide receiver value.
Plenty of value.
Even with the injury. Look, it's a maximum of probably 4 weeks. He might be back in 2. So, you need to monitor this a little bit. If somebody will offer you a 2 top wideout or 2 higher end tier wideouts for him, or you can get like an up and coming guy for him, maybe a running back and a wideout combo. That's what you're looking for. You're not trading Devante Adams straight up for like I don't know, Sterling Shepard or somebody like that.
DJ Moore.
Be smart. So we're saying be open to hearing trade offers if you are starting the season 0-4 or 1-3. But if you're 3-1 or 4-0, I don't know about you, Chad. I'm keeping him. I'm gonna weather this storm. So I think it depends on where you're at with your team and all those things too.
That's the biggest thing. Even if you're 3-1, it depends on your team, right?
100%. And your upcoming schedule. Like look at your league schedule. Maybe the next 3 weeks you've got a very favorable schedule. You're playing some of the bottom feeding teams in your league or something like that. Yeah, maybe you just weather the storm. If you can get out of those next 3 games with 1 win or even 2, then then you're good. So just be smart. That's all we're saying.
Yep. All right, let's move on, Brian. We've got more and more to talk about here. Let's start off with what I just witnessed in Pittsburgh yesterday. There was a 50-50 split of carries between both James Conner and Jalen Samuels, even before the injury happened to Conner. It was pretty interesting, actually. There was a lot of wildcat.
Yeah, which Conner came back from the injury. Just want to clear that up, make sure. I mean, I know in yesterday's episode we were watching the game and he came out. I know we said that later. He did come back into the game.
He did come back into the game. They are evaluating him for an possible ankle injury, see what's up with him, make sure he's fine. But it was interesting to see the split between both of those players. As a matter of fact, Brian, Jalen Samuels led the team in target share in the passing game. He also led the team in snaps over James Conner. I mean, it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I think the team just said, look, I'm not going to read too much into this. I'm going to be honest because I think the team saw that, look, it's the Cincinnati Bengals, and I think they said let's get a win. We don't need to put up 40 points against the team like this. Their defense stifled them 3 points on the night. And so, they played the dink and dunk game, and it worked for them for that defense. But look at their schedule. They're going to play. They got to play the Chiefs. They're going to play all kinds of teams. They got to play the Ravens. That style of play is not going to work against those guys. You have to throw the ball down the field. So I'm concerned about this Ben Roethlisberger injury, and I think I'm going to try to move on from guys like Juju now. I think I'm not buying it. I think it's going to be volatile all year long. If I'm a James Conner owner, which I'm not in any league, but if I were, I would be trying to move James Conner right now. I would be interested in picking up Jalen Samuels. If you can get him off, if Jalen Samuels happens to be out there on the waivers,
which he is,
I'm grabbing him. And so, I would urge you, BroMob, try to grab Jalen Samuels in any league you can, and monitor this James Conner thing. If you're a James Conner owner, he just had a decent game. He got in the end zone. Try to move him. I would move him now. I am not buying this game as something that is sustainable moving forward. If you look at their schedule, this dink and dunk style game cannot be something that is going to be consistent. I think they just needed the win. They were 0-3. They needed that W.
Okay. I agree to disagree. I think James Conner has better roads ahead of him. However, I don't like that 50-50 split, so I will say that. Let's move into the next tidbit of information here, Brian. We've got Golden Tate finally reactivated from the Giants. He's back from a suspension. This is a big time for him. I mean, Daniel Jones already connecting with Sterling Shepard. He just adds another weapon to the arsenal. Golden Tate's a very, very good wide receiver. One of those yards after the catch guys. He's got running back legs on him. He should help with the running game. He's a very good run blocker as well. So Wayne Gallman, his stock goes up here. I think the whole team just kind of benefits from having Golden Tate around.
Yeah, I agree. I think it makes everybody's life a little easier. So
yeah. If you were smart enough to get him, good job. Way to go. If you picked them up a week early, held them on your bench for a little bit. Good job there, BroMob. All right, let's go into Brian. I have two different news notes here. I wanted to bring them up because they're interesting from a fantasy perspective, right? The first one here. Wide receivers that have at least 20% of the target share every game this season. I'm going to go down the list of 6 of them here. Number 1, DeAndre Hopkins, Michael Thomas, Allen Robinson, Kenny Golladay, Odell Beckham Jr., and Cooper Kupp. I'm going to start it off with DeAndre Hopkins first, Brian. Just reassuring fantasy owners out there, listen, I know it's been rough. He's getting targets. He's getting passed to constantly. Deshaun Watson's just been running for his life. They need to get a running game established on this team. And once they do, all they need is a little bit of one. Just a little bit of a running game. It frees up the game a little bit more. And DeAndre Hopkins just destroys everybody after that. Brian, after this, though, I want to talk a little bit more about 2 of the names I just mentioned. Allen Robinson and Cooper Kupp. One of them is already exploding. Cooper Kupp, top 10 wide receiver in fantasy football right now. Allen Robinson, though, if he continues to get this production or this target share, what do you see with him?
Well, so I guess it's going to depend on who is who's playing quarterback. I mean,
yeah,
that's going to be a big part of it too. Look, Trubisky went down, and Robinson was a heavy target for Trubisky. If you look at the game against Minnesota, Trubisky went down early in the game, and he still had 7 targets on the day, 77 yards. Didn't get in the end zone, but that doesn't mean that that he won't in the future. Favorable matchup coming up. I mean, he's got Oakland this week, then they go on bye, then they play New Orleans, the Chargers, and Philly. I think it's a good lineup. Robinson. I think he's. I mean, I'd try to probably buy that.
Yeah, he's got a brutal. He got a brutal playoff schedule. I agree.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Yes.
But if you're looking for some wins, mid-season here, I definitely would look at trading some of your bench players, right? Doing some bench swaps with teams. Brian, you and I were talking about this earlier today. It's just a matter of trying to build up some depth, right? So sometimes those little moves in the season, those little trades that happen that people don't really bat an eye at, sometimes they can win you games in the playoffs. It's valuable. Allen Robinson, a good stretch of games this game this week, and then after the bye, like you said, a couple good games there as well. So, BroMob, if you can get him on the cheap, try it out.
Yeah, and a good person here that's not even mentioned, but I think should be really targeted, and I'm trying to target him in a couple leagues right now. Sterling Shepard for the Giants. I mean, look, back-to-back weeks now of 9 targets, 7 catches. When he played week 1, he had 7 targets for 6 catches. And it looks like, we've got Daniel Jones really kind of likes to throw his way, and clearly with 9 targets. So, I think he's a guy that you look at his schedule coming up, and it's a little brutal. The week 6 through 9, he plays, some of the best defenses in the league against wide receivers, but he's got a really, really easy playoff schedule. So I would be trying to buy him right now. Most likely a lot of teams that have him haven't been playing him. He's probably been sitting on the bench. And so if you can acquire him for, low end price, and you can kind of sit him on your bench for a late season stash, at Philly, at home against Miami, and on the road against Washington.
Yeah, certainly interesting. Sterling Shepard.
Yeah.
So the last little bit of news here, Brian, I want to hit this up before we get into our start and sits. Chris Carson, who had some tough weeks there with some fumbles. The team came out, said they trusted him. Chris Carson repaid the favor. So he came out and he was charted, Brian, with 21 missed tackles against the Cardinals this week. That was the most ever measured in a game since they started measuring the statistic. So Chris Carson came out with a chip on his shoulder and proved to us, hey, I'm a good back. I've made some mistakes here. I can fix that. And he definitely looked good in this game.
Yeah, I liked it, and I think he's got a good matchup this week too. I agree. I like this. I like what we got coming up here. Hey, real quick, Chad, just a side note, BroMob, before we move on to the next segment, going to start reminding you guys this week's bye teams are the Lions and Dolphins. So just beware if you got Lions, Dolphins players in your lineup, get them out. They're on bye this week, and then also Thursday night's game this week is Rams Seahawks. Chris Carson, we're just talking about. I would if you're a Chris Carson owner or you've got any of the players from the Rams or Seahawks in your flex spot, make sure you get them out.
All right. Thanks, Brian. Very helpful there. Good job.
Thanks, Bad.
I'm ready to go in, Coach. Just give me a chance. I know there's a lot riding on it, but it's all psychological.
All right, BroMob. Well, you know where we're starting off first. We got our quarterbacks. I'm going to start it off with a name that almost sounds blasphemous, and you might jump down my throat, BroMob. Kirk Cousins against the Giants. Listen, I know it sounds crazy that Kirk Cousins can do anything at all, right? He's looked terrible. Everything's looked awful here. This is the prove it game, right? So if he doesn't do well here, this is when the team starts to think about, all right, do we start looking to the future to see what we can do without Kirk Cousins, right? Because if he continues to play like this, there's not much more to go with him.
Do they look forward to the year 2000?
Maybe. They might be looking to any year, really, to grab anybody, because Kirk Cousins has looked garbage. If he continues to look garbage, even this week, this is it for me. And for the team, I'm more than certain. So I'm taking the chance on Kirk Cousins having a bounce back week against a poor Giants defense. Listen, he's gonna start it off quick right away. Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen gonna get involved quick in this game. Thielen already showing his frustration last week. Diggs, he's always been kind of a quiet guy, or at least off the field. On the field, he's very emotional and gets into it, but off the field, he's always been quiet. But you can tell that he's frustrated as well. They're both going to get involved early and often. Get Cousins into your lineup. You're not gonna regret it, BroMob.
Yeah, Chad. My quarterback start this week is one Tomith Brady. So Tom Brady against the Washington Redskins. Look, Tom had a rough week this past week against the Bills. What I think is a really good Bills defense, clearly. If you think about it this way, if it weren't for a defensive touchdown from the Patriots probably lose that game. I mean, the Bills were really close to winning that game. So I think Tom Brady had a rough week. This is the bounce back week. He's on the road in Washington against a really soft secondary in Washington that has allowed the second most fantasy points to wide receivers this year. I'm looking for a bounce back game. I'm getting Tom Brady in my lineup if I can.
Yeah, Brady's coming back angry in this game. Who I'm saying to sit this week, though, Derek Carr. They're not going to be bringing the car out in this one. They might be bringing out a stretcher because the Chicago Bears, everybody knows that defense is for real. It's hard to start anybody, right? And I'm not starting Derek Carr in general over this Bears defense. I'm not touching him. I know he had a good week last week, BroMob. Don't believe in him this week. Keep him on your bench. Keep him on the waivers if you haven't picked him up. Don't even think about it.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, you should just get out of the league. Just if Derek Carr's in the league, if he's even available,
really angry.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, get out. Just quit fantasy football completely. This week's sit for me at quarterback is, and this is gonna be one that I think I get some pushback on. Baker Mayfield going up against the 49ers. Yeah, look, here's the deal. That 49ers defense is a little underrated. Also unrated. So they're at home. They're coming off a bye. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for Baker. They're going to be ready for him. And I think this is going to be one of those bounce backwards weeks. Baker's been flip-floppy all season. And so I think he struggles in this game. I think the 49ers are going to come out hot to trap, triggity trap. And so I'm looking for Baker Mayfield to not have a really good game. Bingo, bongo, triggity trap, trap, trap.
God, I hate you so much. All right. Baker Mayfield not feeling so dangerous this week. Tough defense. He's going up against there. Brian, let's get into our running backs. I am going to start it off, BroMob, with my running backs. My solid gold start of the week. Reek. Off to a bad start already. Weak. He doesn't smell that good. Let me tell you that right now. He's not.
He's a smelly.
Marlon Mac and cheese, because he's got the cheese all over him. Marlon Mack against the Chiefs. Listen, Marlon Mack and Chiefs. Got it.
Oh.
Yeah,
fake audience clap in the background. One listener.
The one person. Good job.
Thanks, Mom.
That was a good joke. But listen, BroMob. Marlon Mack, though, not a joke. Kerryon Johnson predicted it last week. He would have a good game against the Chiefs. He had a very good game. He just didn't get the touchdown. 150 scrimmage yards for Kerryon Johnson. He had the fumble, brought it down a little bit. But Marlon Mack, look, the only thing that'll keep him from having a good game this week is if the Chiefs run up the score quick in this one, because Marlon Mack does not get used in the passing game. I don't like that, but I don't foresee that happening because they're going to keep tempo in this game. Why are you laughing? Don't make fun of me.
No, it's just so stupid in my own head. You're like, the only reason he will not have a good game this week, and then instantly my head goes to is if he stubs his toe on a step. I don't know why, but
that would
in
have
my
a
head,
bad week
that's
for me.
what came out of your mouth.
Yeah, I'd have a bad week as well.
Yeah,
he's not stubbing any toes, BroMob. He's going to have a good week. Put him in your lineups. Solid gold. Start of the week, Marlon Mack.
You listen here, Marlon. You stay away from them stairs. So my start at running back this week is, we talked about it earlier in the news, Chris Carson against the Rams. Seattle's at home. These guys are rivals, and you're on a Thursday night. Rams defense has already been playing pretty suspect this year, especially against the run. I think and Chris Carson looked like he was rebirthed this past week. So Seahawks I think they're gonna play keep away. Yeah, exactly.
Out the womb.
So I think this is a bad episode already. Chris Carson I think he's gonna shine this week. So I would get Chris Carson in your lineup.
All right, BroMob. Well, let's get into the sits here. Mark Ingram against the Steelers. It's not, again, another blasphemous pick. I get it. Mark Ingram's been too hot to trot. But this Steelers defense is not joking, guys. It is really good against the run. Listen, Joe Mixon, good running back, had a bad week this past week. Every running back that's went up against this Steelers defense has had a bad week. Mark Ingram should have much of the same. Look, he hasn't been good every game. He's got stopped a couple times. This is going to be another one of those games. He's going to have to break a lot of tackles to get any yardage. I don't see anything happening here. You probably don't have a better option to start than Mark Ingram, but just understand that it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah, much like you. My sit this week is Josh Jacobs, Oakland running back. Look, Chad, you talked about earlier with the Derek Carr pick. I'm with you on that, and I'm sitting the guy right behind him, Josh Jacobs. Yeah. So going up against the Bears, Guys, it's the Bears. It's not going to be pretty. Find a better matchup.
Bears.
Bears.
All right, let's get into our wide receivers here.
I was going to do it again, but I didn't.
Let's get into our wide receivers. Start of the week at wide receiver, Calvin Ridley against the Texans. BroMob, he's hurt you for a couple weeks here, and it looks like he's starting to concede some target share to Mohamed Sanu. But here's the thing. Calvin Ridley is too good to be held in check all season. Don't you even think about it. keep it intact.
I thought you were going to say I thought you were going to say Mahomes Sanu.
No. Calvin Ridley, listen, this guy, he's pure talent. I'm expecting a high-scoring affair between both of these teams. Because of that, Ridley, this is a really bad secondary with Houston. They're not good. Calvin Ridley is going to find plenty of opportunities for yardage, and he's going to find some opportunities for pay dirt as well. Get him in the lineups, put him in the flex, wide receiver 2 even, should have a good week.
Yeah, my wide receiver start this week is Julian Edelman, wide receiver for the New England Patriots, going up against the Washington Redskins. Look, go back, listen to my Tom Brady piece. Second most points given up to the wide receiver spot. Edelman had a rough game, mainly because Brady had a rough game. Bills defense this past week. Now they get the Washington Redskins defense. Should be feast time for Edelman. I see him getting in the end zone maybe multiple times. So I'm starting. If you can start Julian Edelman this week, get him in your lineup.
Speaking of feast, Chris Godwin has been feasting for the last 2 weeks. He's full, guys. He's not going to do much this week. He can't put any more in the belly. He's going up against the Saints. Tough defense, especially at home. We saw what they can do against Dallas this past week. Amari Cooper was held in check. Even Jason Witten, the never fumbling god himself, fumbled in this one. And not much else went around in this game. So Chris Godwin, the entire Tampa Bay Buccaneers is going to have some struggles here in New Orleans. And Chris Godwin, I'm staying away from. Jameis Winston, listen, it's either the sunny side or the dark side, right? And we're getting the dark side this week. Stay away from this offense.
I like, I used to be kind of a chicken breast guy, but I kind of like dark meat now.
Of course you do.
Like, give me a good chicken leg. All right,
white.
Chad. My sit this week is wide receiver Robert Woods of the LA Rams. Almost said the other one. So going up against the Seattle Seahawks. I talked about this earlier. I think the Seahawks are going to come out to play. I think that defense can be really good. It's a Thursday night game. I see kind of a repeat of the Browns game coming. I just smell it. Smell it. Yep, smelled it. Robert Woods. It might have been something else. May have been something different. But I think Robert Woods is the guy they try to take away. Cook's going to be doing that underneath stuff that he does best. And I think Cooks has the better night. So I would sit Robert Woods, or he's the guy I would sit of the three.
All right, let's get into our tight ends here. Brian, who you starting?
Yeah, I'm going to look. I said it last week. I was wrong about Will Disley. And I refuse to ever sit him again. Ever. Even if he's injured. So Will Disley, I'm rolling him out there against the Rams. I think he has a good week. I learned my lesson. So I know, Chad, you might be a little different on this, and you'll probably try to school me in a moment. But, yeah, Disley's the guy I'm rolling out there this week.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Brian. But first, I'm going to start it off with my start of the week. I got Jimmy Graham against the Cowboys. Look, we already mentioned it here. Devante Adams, definitely not going to be making it this week against Dallas. They're going to need a red zone threat. Dallas, though they're a good defense and they're starting to wake up a little bit, notoriously bad against the tight ends. Jimmy Graham, I could see making the end zone at least once in this game. Even if he doesn't get many yards, that still gives you a very good tight end week. Jimmy Graham, I'm putting in the starting lineups if I can.
Yeah, Chad. So let's move on to sits real quick. So my tight end sit of this week is Delaney Walker, tight end for the Tennessee Titans. Look, they're going up against the Bills. We just talked about what they did to Tom Brady. So I'm not playing anybody against the Bills this week off that Tennessee team. No way. So yeah, sitting Delaney Walker this week. He had one catch for basically nothing last week. So I see much of the same this week.
So you said start Will Dissly. Brian, I'm going to fight you on this. I'm going to say sit Will Dissly against the Rams. Eric Weddle is not a joke. Him and his beard, they shut down every tight end every week. O.J. Howard last week, a really good example of that. Even though the Bucs had went off for 55 points in this game, O.J. Howard wasn't much of a factor in that. Eric Weddle, very good. I'm just not seeing much for Dissly this week.
So you're dissing my Dissly, are you?
I'm dissing it hard.
How dare you? Chad, let's move on to defenses. Who are you starting at defense this week, bud?
I've got the Eagles against the Jets. Listen, and it's predicated on the fact that Sam Darnold, if he does not play, then this is a very good start for me. The team woke up for the pass rush this previous week. It should continue on against a porous Jets offensive line and a very bad quarterback if Sam Darnold's not there. I'll take the points from the sacks. They might give up some points in the passing game and some touchdowns, but I'll take those sacks all day.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping Sam Darnold plays because, God, this is a good matchup for him. But we'll see. Chad, my start this week is, well, first of all, always start the Patriots defense. Jeez, they are ridiculous. So glad I have them. Amazing. But I'm going to digress this week. Start your Bears defense, guys. Get your Bears in lineup, okay? At Oakland, look, I know the Oakland offense has looked a little bit better, but look, I think the Bears are going to eat them alive. So on defense anyway. So you will definitely want to be starting your Bears defense this week.
All right, let's talk about our sits, Brian. You've mentioned it already. The Seahawks, they're going to play a tough game, but I'm not starting them against the Rams. Listen, this is a Thursday night football game. You don't start defenses again Thursday night just because of the historical points that are scored on these games themselves. It's short weeks. Teams, defenses are usually beaten up during them. I'm not taking that chance on the Seahawks. I'm keeping them on the bench. I'm keeping them on the waivers if I can, and I'm not starting against the Rams.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. You and I kind of have a golden rule there. We try not to start defenses that play on a Thursday, but sometimes that backfires a little bit on you. But rule of thumb is it usually doesn't, right? My sit this week, Chad, is Colts defense against the Chiefs. They're on the road in Kansas City, going up against Pat Mahomes. The Lions kind of almost embarrassed them last week. So I just have this feeling that the Chiefs are going to come out and just lay a whooping on the Colts. So I'm not touching Colts defense with a stick this week. No way.
All right, well, that's going to do it for our starts and sits this week, BroMob. Be sure to check our key to the title system if you want to check out more, or go to our website, thefantasyfootballbros.com, to check our start and sits for week 5. All right, let's get into our sleepers.
Sleepers.
All right, my first sleeper of the week. We got Duke Johnson going against the Falcons. He hasn't done much yet so far, BroMob, but listen, the Falcons are notoriously terrible at covering receiving running backs, and who's better than Duke Johnson at just that? Listen, the Houston Texans need to get the running game going if they're going to keep Watson healthy all season. This needs to be the game that they started in. The Falcons, they lost Keanu Neal, so it's going to hurt them even more. Duke Johnson should have a big game here.
It's not a bad pick, Chad. I'm going to roll a little bit different direction. It's kind of predicated on a little somebody maybe playing this week. But if Sam Darnold plays this week, I like, and still even without him, I like Robbie Anderson this week against the Eagles. I think, after what I saw against Packers wide receivers last week, or what the Packers wide receivers were able to do, rather, the Eagles secondary is a mess. And if Sam Darnold plays, I absolutely love Robbie Anderson this week. But look, if not, I may have to retract this statement.
Yeah, it could be hurting you. So we'll see. All right, let's get into our busts, Brian.
Busts.
All right, same as every week, BroMob. We got some big names here for you this week that we believe will not have good games. Brian, who do you got busting this week?
Yeah, so I think back-to-back weeks, there's a chance Amari Cooper has a rough game this week going up against the Packers. I'm not in love with Amari Cooper this week. Really not in love with him from a bust pick either, or a play pick. I'm just not sure what to do with him. And so I feel like, I don't know, maybe he could have a decent game, but I'm just not going to, I'm not going to take a chance. I think he's kind of a bust candidate this week that could have a decent game. I'm mumbling here. I'm just really confused, Chad. I don't really know what to do.
I can see it. I mean, Jair Alexander, very good corner there in Green Bay. So if he's following Amari Cooper around, I could see why he would have a bust. So I get it. Brian, I've got Derrick Henry going up against the Bills. We've talked about the Bills already a couple times. This is a very good defense, one of the top 3 defenses in the league, actually. And Derrick Henry, look, he needs to build up the steam to get going. And if they can't get him going early on in this game, it's going to take him a long time to even get started. So Derrick Henry, not a good play this week against the Bills. I'm not looking to start him anywhere.
Yeah, Chad, and my other bust pick this week, I like this one. This one feels a little bit better than my other one, but Ronald Jones the second going up, running back for the Buccaneers, going up against the New Orleans Saints defense. You just saw what they did to Zeke Elliott. Look, Chad, Ronald Jones might have negative 55 yards and negative 3 touchdowns.
Ooh, negative 3 touchdowns. Okay.
Yeah, negative. Yeah, they actually take 3 touchdowns away. Yeah, that's how bad it's going to be. Yeah, it's going to be really bad, I think.
Take it from his stats from his previous games. We don't care. Yeah, this has been a good defense. Yep. They've also stopped Todd Gurley the week before Zeke there. It's looked good. So, Brian, I'm going to stick with good rushing defenses here as well, and I'm going to say that Le'Veon Bell is a bust candidate. Look, he is the offense, and all they need to focus on is stopping him, especially if Sam Darnold's not there. This Eagles defense, week in and week out, they stop top end running backs from producing anything against them. Le'Veon Bell, one of the top ends that you can even possibly think of. I'm not liking this matchup at all for him. Again, this is one of those players that you probably can't sit or you can't afford to sit him, but just understand that he's not going to do too well for you. So if you can pair him up with a high upside type of player, somebody who's going to take the roof off of the house for somebody, and they could score you big points just off of one play, that would be the pairing I'd go for, just because his floor is a little bit lower than normal this week.
Yeah, Chad, I'm with you on that. Again, just to remind BroMob, I know we talk about this every week, but busts are not players that we say are going to like fall through the floor. These are some of these players. I mean, like, I don't know that you can sit Derrick Henry if you have him. I don't know that you can sit Amari Cooper. We're not saying sit these guys. We're just saying, hey, temper your expectations. They're probably going to have a little bit of a rough week. Right. And, that way you kind of know what you have coming ahead. But here's a side question, Chad, on the Lev Bell piece. I don't want to spend too much time here, but if Sam Darnold does go, does that make Lev Bell more attractive, or do you still say, hey, I think it's Eagles front 4 or front 6? I'm still probably sitting him, or I'm not sitting him, but I still think he's a bust.
I still think he's a bust. This defense is the best rushing defense in this league, in my eyes.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, all right, BroMob. Well, that's going to be our busts for the week. Sleepers and bust, like we said, with our starters and sits. You can definitely find them at our website, thefantasyfootballbros.com. Let's get into our streamers.
This week's streamers.
BroMob, you know the deal. Let's start it off at quarterbacks here. This week, I'm starting Chase Daniel. Look, he's just getting the starting job here with Trubisky going down with an injury. He's playing the Raiders in Oakland, but it doesn't matter, really. I mean, this team, it's not very good defensively. Chase Daniel, who's virtually unowned in most leagues, you should be able to go out there and put a waiver bid on him and try to get him. He's got a lot of weapons to throw to. We talked about Allen Robinson earlier. We'll see what happens with some other players on this team. Trey Burton might get used a little bit more than he has been getting used. Maybe we see some more David Montgomery getting used in the passing game. Tariq Cohen get used more uniquely in the offense. Matt Nagy's gonna script this game differently, and it's going to be scripted to better fit Chase Daniel. So I see a big game for him.
Yeah, Chad. So my streamer this week, who happens to be, if he plays, is my rock solid, gold plated, diamond crested stream of the week. Sam Darnold going up against the Eagles. I'm hoping he plays. It's 50-50 right now. He has been, as we talked about earlier, he's been cleared for non-contact drills, and looks like he's resuming throwing and all that good stuff. So those are good signs. I don't know that they're good enough signs. I think the Jets were hoping he'd be a little bit further along right now, is my understanding, Chad. But there is a chance he could play Sunday. So if he practices Friday, I think he's a go. even if he's a part of like the walkthroughs or something like that, I think he's a go, right? So Sam Darnold is a guy that going up against the Eagles defense, that secondary is, geez. I mean, they're rushing, though they may be the best rushing defense, Chad, but they might be the worst passing. So I don't know who's worse, them or the Dolphins or the Giants. They're all kind of in the mix. So, Sam Darnold, looks like an opportunity if he can play.
Yeah, I hear you there. Let's get into some other ugly picks. And these are some streamers that I didn't really. This is a bad week for tight ends. So the streamer that I have this week is Noah Fant. Going against the Chargers, he's only owned in 8.1% of ESPN leagues. He's starting to get more involved, the rookie, in this offense. Joe Flacco's starting to believe in him a little bit more in circumstances. He got a red zone. He got a touchdown last week in the red zone. The hope here is that red zone usage continues going into a Chargers team that is without Derwin James. Very good safety. They haven't had him all year, but they're struggling against tight ends because of that. Noah Fant could be a sneaky play for you here at tight end if you're very weak at the position. It's worth taking a flyer on if you have no other options.
Yeah, Chad. So my streaming tight end, and I agree we're pretty light at tight end this week, but Eric Ebron is an opportunity, I think, going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to put up a lot of points against the Colts, so they're going to be passing a lot. I think that poses some opportunity to really put some points on the board. But only owned in 48.9% of ESPN leagues out there, so he should be pretty available. So if you're looking for a good tight end opportunity this week, I would maybe take a chance at Eric Ebron with a K.
Ekbron for the K. The win.
For the win.
All right. Let's get into our last streamers here. BroMob, the defenses. They've done it 2 weeks in a row. Panthers defense, they're going to do it 3 weeks in a row. Jacksonville Jaguars. Listen, Gardner Minshew has been playing good enough to win games, but the big thing here is that he was sacked 5 times last week, and this is a defense that likes to get sacks, and they like to get turnovers. They're only owned in 30.1% ESPN leagues out there. Go out there and get them. Look, rookie quarterbacks are good for throwing some errant throws, some interceptions there. Detective Minshew has been really good at sniffing out the case and sniffing out the not so bad plays. This is a really tough defense that he might have a problem against. Very good streaming option this week.
Yeah, Chad, and I'm gonna take a long shot. This is like a Hail Mary streaming defense this week. And I think I'm going to get some pushback. 49ers defense at home against the Browns off of bye. I like it. Only owned in 26.9% of ESPN leagues. And I think they're going to plan well. Baker had last week, that offensive line actually held up. But prior to that, 3 weeks in a row, he was heavily pressured. I think the Niners defense is going to come after him. And I think they're going to start really early. And so I'm looking at this thinking Niners defense, they could have a pick 6 or at least a couple turnovers. And so I'm starting Niners defense in leagues where they're available, which is the majority, again, 26.9% of ESPN leagues are available or they're owned in. So they're available in nearly 75% of leagues out there. This one might be my funeral, Chad, but I'm in. Join me, BroMob. Join me.
I see what entices you. I mean, this is a defense for the first 3 weeks that had 7 turnovers. And then they've also been the top 5 unit in the NFL so far. So I see the intrigue, but I don't like the matchup. I think the Browns, so long as they keep to the same script they played against Baltimore, and that's feeding Chubb, they found what that offense needed. And so if they do that again, you might be struggling.
I'm not convinced. That was 1 week. And every week so far, we've had a different Browns team. So
true.
I see the Niners. I think the Niners are going to handle them. Niners 4-0. Put it on the board.
Interesting. All right, BroMob. Well, Brian with hhis crazy pick of Niners 4-0, we'll end our show. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday and every Wednesday to stay up to date on the fantasy football world and to gather any insights on how to dominate your fantasy football league.
Yeah, BroMob, and we just talked about it earlier. Make sure you head over to thefantasyfootballbros.com for our starts and sits this week. That's always on our website. And head over to keytothetitle.com. Make sure you set up an account to get a little bit more of an in-depth look at sleepers, busts. We've got our streaming picks on there, all kinds of stuff. There's weather data, a lot of really, really good stuff you want to get over there. Free account, doesn't cost anything to create an account. Keytothetitle.com.
If you're not on Apple Podcast, we're on Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, pretty much everywhere out there. We're soon to be on iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, pretty much everywhere out there. You can find us, BroMob. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at FFBros Podcast, and be sure to check out our website, thefantasyfootballbros.com, for all kinds of articles, rankings, and just so much more. See you next week, BroMob.
Bye, everybody. Go get those dubs.